Guys, why am I so picky? I feel like they were definitely giving Elizabeth and Darcy. Hi, hello. Welcome and/or welcome back to my channel. My name is Trina. Today is June 8th, and this video is not going to end until I have found my new favorite romance book. I have read some great 5-star books this year. I've even read some okay romance books, but it has been now 8 months, potentially even 9 months, since I last read a 5-star romance. And that is unacceptable because I'm a romantic and I refuse to be thwarted by the romance genre, which it's one of my favorite genres, is what got me back into reading, is what is low-key like the only genre that I continually read even when I was in college, because it was like lighter and I could consume it more easily. And I just have been striking out. I think the last 5-star romance book I read was You Should Be So Lucky last October, I think it was. And I have read some romances since then, but none that like I could turn my brain off for, you know? And in this case, we're using turn my brain off in a good way, because oftentimes I'm reading a romance book that like could be good, but I'm not like forgetting the world, you know? Like you're reading that romance book and you're like, okay, well I have to stay up until 3 a.m. now to finish it. I haven't had that feeling in so long and I want it back so badly. So that is what this video is for. I'm on the hunt for new favorite romance. I'm not gonna like drop everything and only read romance because that's way more likely to just have me very irritated. I'm gonna film myself reading the romance books that I pick up and see how long it takes for one of them to be a 5-star. I don't quite know which books I'm gonna pick up yet or in what order, because I have to mood read if I want to find a new favorite. You know, I gotta pick them up as they come. But I do know which one I'm starting with, and what prompted me to start this video today is First Time Caller by Borison, I think. Finally came in from my hold from the library. I've had it on hold since February, since it came out. It is extremely popular, and I've heard some really, really great things about it, and I think the cover is adorable. I love this art style so much. Like, it's not like one of those cartoon covers where all the characters look exactly the same. Like, these characters have faces and expressions, and anyways, I'm obsessed with the cover. Don't judge a book by its cover, except for this book, which I've decided to pick up because I love the cover so much. First Time Caller, I believe, is a romance between 2 radio hosts, or 1 radio host and somewhat like a guest star on the radio. I don't know. I know it's like a romance radio station where they're like trying to they're taking calls about people's romantic woes, and that the guy main character has kind of like lost faith in love, and the girl main character is gonna bring that back in him. So I like that dynamic a lot. I've heard good things, and I've heard the characters are older too. They're like in their 30s. I think she's a mom, so I'm already excited. I'm hoping to really, really enjoy it. So we're gonna start out with First Time Caller by Borison. I usually read romances on my phone as I go. I'll probably update you in the end how I've decided to rate it, if I enjoyed it, or whether or not it became a new 5-star favorite romance. So stick around. Hopefully you get some romance recs out of this, because I'm planning on reading some great romance books, okay? Even if a book isn't a 5-star to me, I think that other people can enjoy it, because I feel like romance is very subjective. You have to like really either like project onto one of the characters or like fall into the characters completely. And I think that that's very subjective, and even the books that in this video that I may not like might be for you. So hopefully you get some romance recs out of this, and hopefully I find a new 5-star favorite, because I would hate to get to the end of the year and have no 5-star favorite romance to list under my favorite in that genre. We're gonna start it off. Wish me luck. I feel like this isn't how radio stations work. I mean, I like it, but how, if no one watches or listens, How is that your full-time job? Sorry, Aiden, but I'm still working on First Time Caller. It is so long. This is a 440-page romance book. I didn't realize how long this was. There's not even like any plot to it other than the romance. I'm like, how could it be 440 pages? I'm like about halfway, and I think I can safely say that while I like it, it's not gonna be a new 5-star romance, unfortunately. And I'll talk about the why at the end, but I think already now I can say that with some certainty. So we are definitely going to get the next book. I don't know if I'm going to jump right into it after I finish this, but I'm going to finish this first and then decide. But yeah, we'll talk more about this when I'm done with all 440 pages of it. Guys, am I turning into the Grinch? Is my heart 4 times too small or something? Why didn't I like this book? I finished it all of like 10 minutes ago. I wanted to like this so badly. I don't know why. Well, I have a couple of things I didn't like about it. But overall, even before like I could pinpoint the specific things that annoyed me, overall it just like it wasn't making me giddy. It wasn't making me like giggle and kick my feet in joy the way I wanted it to. That's why I'm doing this video. I'm doing this video because I want to feel that way about a romance book again, and I will not rest until I do. We have struck out on the first swing. I don't know. I don't play baseball. Anyways, for First Time Caller, there were a lot of things that like hypothetically should have worked really well. I really liked the main characters as individuals. I really liked Lucy. I really feel like Aiden had a lot of potential. I would have liked to see a little bit more from him as a character, but he had like a lot of potential. I thought he was sweet. I love Lucy's like family dynamic, and like she has a daughter and she co-parents with both her daughter's father, who lives next door with his husband, and like they have a great supportive dynamic amongst them that I think really worked. I liked all the supporting cast and I liked the main characters. I just didn't like them together. I don't know, I just feel like Lucy deserved better. All this stuff about like wanting magic and wanting to be made to feel special, and then Aiden doesn't make her feel special. He like purposefully misunderstands her constantly. And I know that's not how we're supposed to read it. And I know that's what I'm saying is like I think I'm like becoming a Grinch. Because if I was in maybe a really good romance mood, maybe I would have read Aiden's actions as like being super sweet and supportive. But I just couldn't. I was really frustrated with him because one, this is a 450-page romance novel, and there's one single miscommunication throughout the whole thing. There's just not enough plot to fill 450 pages, so I ended up just starting to get annoyed by the end, by the things that I was like kind of, and this is fine, not like my favorite thing, but it's okay, in the beginning of the book. Then it just got dragged out so long that I just didn't like it by the end, which really sucks. And then at the end, we're in like the last 10% of the book, and Aiden finally realizes he's being an asshole, and then has about 2 pages reflecting on that, and then does a giant romantic gesture and everything is fine and he gets the girl. And I'm like, he could have done a little bit more. I feel, what a disaster. But I did finish First Time Caller, and I think so many people would love this book because it does have like a lot of great sweet lines about the nature of love and romance, and it has like really heartwarming characters that I rooted for. The problem is I ended up rooting for them so hard that I was like, no, they deserve better. They deserve more. Aiden should have had like more time to go to therapy and really work through his issues about love before getting into this relationship. Or like at least we should have had more on the page of him like working through it. And Lucy deserves Aiden at his best and not at the point he is at when they get together. But I digress. That was First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. The cover is still gorgeous, and I think I'm still gonna read book 2, which centers around Aiden's best friend, Jackson, in this book. It's not out yet. It comes out next year. But the cover for that one is gorgeous. And also, I really love Jackson's character. I'm slightly worried, though, because the summary for book 2, Jackson, like a perfectionist who needs to learn to, like, loosen the reins. And I'm like, Jackson, the perfection, like, Jackson, my sweet baby boy Jackson, is gonna be made out to be some, like, broody perfectionist love interest. I'm not judging that book before I've read it. I'm not. I'm really not. We move on. That means we're moving on to the next book. I don't have a specific one in mind. In terms of what books I have checked out or available to me, I have a couple on Kindle Unlimited, and I have one checked out from the library that I'm not even totally sure if it's a romance or a romantasy. I think it's a romance. That one's called Afterlove, which is... I actually don't know anything about it other than it's sapphic and it involves, like, fantastical elements. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I think I still need to sit. I don't want to just jump into the next one with my bad vibes from First Time Caller. So I'm gonna let myself sit and think about it, and then I'll let you know when I've started another romance book. Hi, hello. We're back. It's been a little bit, and I'm in the mood for another romance book. I'm actually more than in the mood. I want to find a good romance book so bad because I was just reminded... Sorry, sidetrack, but still romance related. One of my favorite romance books that I read last year, just like iconic duology, was Heated Rivalry and The Long Game, which is a hockey romance. I thought it was so good, such great chemistry between the characters. I got really attached to those characters specifically and like their journey together, just like beautiful. And I just found out this week that there's going to be a TV show made of that book. I'm really, really excited about it. I think it's gonna be so cool. The casting looks spot on. Creators supposedly are like great for like comedy hockey writing, which is amazing. So now it's gotten me even more hype. I'm like, damn, like, remember when I used to love romance books like that? What happened? So now I really want to try it again. So I decided to pick up this next book because of that, because I'm in the mood, and because this book is expiring in like 5 or 6 days. It's a library hold that I've renewed like twice, and I'm like, no, I have to finish this and stop using up my library's licenses and be a good library patron and read this book. So that book is Afterlove by Tanya Byrne, which is a sapphic romance story where one of the characters dies, and I don't know if she becomes like a guardian angel or like is somehow able to watch her girlfriend who is still alive. So I'm imagining very angsty. I'm imagining potentially not happy ending, but that's okay. So we're gonna give Afterlove a shot. Wish me luck. Round 2, finding my favorite romance book. Hi, it's barely been a day. I'm flying through Afterlove because, for a minute there, I thought it was going to be 5 stars. There's still a chance. There's still a tiny chance that brings it back. As I mentioned, the concept of the book is that the main character dies and becomes the Grim Reaper right as she's dating this girl who she thinks is the love of her life. We spent the majority of the first half of the book dedicated to the main character falling in love with her girlfriend Poppy. But I really did love that beginning part. It was absolutely flying through. I thought they were so sweet. I thought her problems in her like day-to-day life, as like simple as they were really relatable and real. And she was really struggling with like her identity and this balancing act with her mom, that she's come out to her parents, but her parents are very religious, but they love her. So everyone's kind of like tense and they're trying to figure out the situation the best they can. It would have worked so well, I think, as just a contemporary romance story without the supernatural elements. But now we're on to the supernatural elements. Ashana is dead and she's meeting the other Grim Reapers. We're already halfway through the book, and she's only just now becoming a Grim Reaper, and that's in the back of the book. So I do think the pacing is a little bit funky there. The other Grim Reapers are just like really rude and harsh, and I imagine because it's kind of like a harsh job to have, but they're like not really easing her into it at all. And we're now like 5 chapters in of her just denying the fact that she's dead at all. Like, she still doesn't believe it because they're not really doing a good job of explaining it to her whatsoever. They kind of led with the "you're a Grim Reaper now" before like getting into the "you're dead now" part. I'm not a huge fan of these supernatural chapters. I just really liked Ashana and Poppy together, and I liked Ashana's family, and by introducing these like sarcastic mean girl Grim Reaper characters, we're distracting from the grief of Ashana dying and now being completely disconnected from her family. Now we're officially caught up with the back of the book though, so I don't know where we're going from here, and I'm interested in where it's gonna lead. And I will say I really do like it. I know I was just complaining about like little pacing things, but those were just me explaining why it probably won't be a 5-star. But at the same time, I really like the writing. It's really solid, good writing. I think the part I'm most attached to is like the family dynamics, but I did really love Poppy and Ashana's like growing love for each other. I'm gonna keep going, and there's still a chance that maybe once we're past this little speed bump in the middle that it'll go back to being a 5-star book. We'll see. But at the very least, I know that I'm really, really loving it, and I'm really, really enjoying it, which is such a nice surprise because I have seen very few other people talk about this book, so I really didn't know what to expect, but I'm loving it so far. Good morning, welcome back to the romance reading vlog. I finished Afterlove in bed late last night, so I didn't really want to update, so now I'm about to go on a hike, which is why I'm dressed like this, but I wanted to give thoughts before I forget them. I really, really liked Afterlove. I really did. It's definitely a good romance, I will say that. In the end, what really like stopped me from enjoying it 100% was a little bit the supernatural elements, but more so that my favorite part of the early part of the story, and my favorite part in most romances, are when the familial dynamics of the characters play an important part in who they are. And like, especially in queer romances, when there's a discussion of like family and community and belonging in the community you came from and the community you're trying to join, and that kind of conversation is always my favorite part. And I think it's really done so well in the first third of this book. And it just sucks that when the supernatural elements are introduced and she becomes a Grim Reaper, that becomes much less a part of the story. Like, sure, she still thinks about her family once in a while, but she's way more occupied with her girlfriend than like her family and her human concerns. I almost wish it was a contemporary romance without those supernatural elements, because I feel like it took away somewhat of the discussions of family that I found the most like emotionally compelling. I had a good time with it. I do recommend it, but the search for a 5-star will continue shortly. The more I think about this video, the more that like TikTok keeps feeding me romance recommendations, so I'm adding to a long list. I have a couple other books that I want to read that aren't romances, but maybe in a few days, a week or so, I'll come back and we'll pick a new romance to read and search for. See you then. Hello, I'm welcoming you back. It has been a few weeks. I guess I should give you a date update so you can see how much time is passing, but it is currently June 17th. I thought there was no better time than now to pick up my next romance book because I want that romance, okay? I'm craving it. Afterlove was delightful. I really, really loved Afterlove, but at the same time, upon finishing it, I haven't really like thought about the characters very much afterwards. Like, it didn't stick with me in the way that like a really good romance book should, where you become obsessed with the characters. That's my criteria. So I'm still searching for that elusive 5-star. I have a couple of ideas for the next books. I was thinking this one might be like cheating to prolong the video a little bit,
But I do want to read Act Your Age, Eve Brown, and finish up the Brown Sisters trilogy. The other book I was thinking about reading next, though, was a book called Oleander, which I don't remember the author's name right now. It's on Kindle Unlimited, which I've gotten from TikTok recommendations by the same people who loved Heated Rivalry, a book I was talking about earlier in this video. Oleander is also a potential favorite, versus Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I've already started and didn't enjoy and put down, but I think now I might be more in the mood for it, and I'm willing to give Eve Brown a little bit more grace than I did upon my previous read. I do want to use this opportunity to make myself read Act Your Age, Eve Brown, so I will do that if I'm allowed. I'm going to read Act Your Age, Eve Brown hopefully in the next couple of days, and then I also very much want to pick up whatever is next. Maybe Oleander, maybe something else. We will see. For now, I have Act Your Age, Eve Brown checked out, and I'm ready to give it another shot and see if maybe it can bring me as much joy as the other Brown Sisters books did. I did not remember this at all, but Eve referencing AO3 on the very first page could either be a great omen or a terrible one. So far, we're still in the section I've already read, and it's still like the part that irritated me, like this whole confrontation with her parents and how like she has no ambition or no dreams or anything like that. So far, it's like very unenjoyable, but I just have to hope that if I get further in than I did last time, then we get to the part where she starts having character growth and we learn that she did have dreams the whole time. It was just part of the act in the beginning. I'm hoping that we get to that point, because I've heard this is people's favorite Brown Sisters novel, and now rereading this first chapter, I'm like, I don't remember why. I'm still holding out hope that I enjoy this, because like I don't see how Talia Hibbert could have just fallen off a cliff after the first two Brown Sisters books that I loved. So I have hope. I have hope. But AO3 on the first page? Really? Really? This is a 500-page romance novel? I mean, I know she has a lot of character development to do, but 500 pages? Hello. It's been about a week since I finished Act Your Age, Eve Brown. While some things did change, and I certainly finished the book, like I didn't like feel such rage I had to put the book down or anything like that. They didn't improve enough for me to really raise my rating. I did not really enjoy Act My Age, Eve Brown. I'm glad I finished it. I'm glad I finished the Brown Sisters trilogy. We got some more from Chloe and Danny, her sisters, in the later chapters, which I love. I love them. I love their partners. I also love Eve's partner in this book, Jacob. I really do like him. I just don't like the way that the characters in this book were written. They felt so cartoon-like they weren't like real people who are really reacting in certain ways to certain situations. They just felt like so exaggerated and over the top, and when you're dealing with somewhat like sensitive subjects, I just wasn't a fan. There were some really cute moments between Eve and Jacob, which I liked in the end, but not enough for me to give Eve Brown a very high rating, unfortunately, which I know some people say that that's their favorite book in the series, which I kind of get, because it's like, it's a little bit different than the other books. So if people didn't like the other books, then this one might feel like amazing. Or if the other books were like then this might be like amazing. But I really liked the other books, and this one felt like a downgrade for me, unfortunately. But I do still recommend Get a Life Chloe Brown and Take a Hint Danny Brown, because I did like those a reasonable amount when I read them last summer, I think. But I finished it. We're continuing the roll. I know I mentioned reading Oleander. I started it It's 600 pages long. I just finished another 600-page book. I just finished 2 other 700-page books, and I'm about to start another 700-page book, fantasy, like that I'm reading separate from this vlog. I want to have some nice, easy, short romances. And Oleander also seems like very hurt comfort, very trauma bonding kind of romance, which is kind of my thing. Like, I could be interested in reading that, but not at this exact moment. It seems like it could be a book that could be a 5 stars if I'm in the right space for it. So it may come up later in this vlog, who knows, if we're still not there. Instead, what actually came in from the library was another MLM romance called A Gentleman's Gentleman by TJ Alexander, I think. That one is a nobleman in like, it's like a Victorian romance, I think, or like Regency romance between a nobleman and his valet. Very intriguing, and I've seen it get really good reviews, especially on TikTok amongst the romance circles I watch on TikTok. So I'm gonna give that one a shot, I think. Next, I'm very excited to try a book that actually has a shot at being a 5 star. Fingers crossed.
Kind of obsessed with him describing his love interest as a greyhound in human shape and also dour and friendless, but I just love the greyhound comparison because I feel like that's the ideal man. I love greyhounds, they're so cute. It's perfect.
Also, this might be kind of random, but I feel like so often when I read Regency romances, specifically queer Regency romances, but often others, between like a servant and like the lord or earl or whoever they're serving, then it's oftentimes like really awkward. Like their interactions feel very like not professional from like the start, but I really like how like the early interactions between the valet and the earl in this book are like, the valet is like, this is my job and I intend to do a good job, and the earl is like, because he has the power of, and privilege of that position, can be more casual and is like, why is this guy so uptight? And it's like, well, he's uptight because like this is his job and it's very important that he makes a living, which the earl doesn't really understand. So I feel like it is so far historically accurate in a way I really enjoy, but we shall see, but promising first 20% of A Gentleman's Gentleman.
I broke my phone tripod, and I live in fuck-ass Sweden right now, so I can't just order a replacement on Amazon because Amazon doesn't work in this country, even though I'm not supporting Amazon usually. It's just that, like, that would be super convenient in this case where I've been extremely inconvenienced by my own clumsiness and stupidity. So, yeah, you're currently stacked on some books. Very unbalanced. This tripod has already collapsed a couple of times, so if the angle keeps changing, just know it's because you're in a new tripod. So now I'm like, okay, well, now I have to go find a place that sells really tall phone tripods, which I don't think they do because I've already searched on like all the popular technology sites here. Sorry, that was a negative way to start an otherwise really positive update. I did finish A Gentleman's Gentleman by TJ Alexander, and I really, really, really liked it. I really did.
But once again, the depths of despair. I am too picky. There's something wrong with me. I've become too picky. I think it's mostly just because I feel like if you find a romance book that like you just fall in love with the characters, you're willing to ignore any like small faults in the story. And that just didn't happen with A Gentleman's Gentleman. I really, really like the main characters, Christopher and I think Thomas Harding. Or maybe I'm taking Thomas from Downton Abbey. I forgot what the love interest name was right now. But I really love their relationship. The reveal near the end of the story was pretty obvious pretty early on, but I still enjoyed it. Like, I was still expecting it, and I had a really good time with the ending, and I loved their love. I thought it was a really good take on a trans Regency romance. What wasn't so perfect was just, like, I didn't disappear into the story totally. I couldn't help it. Near the end, I started feeling like, okay, how are we gonna resolve this? Because, like, well, at the 50% mark, I felt like it was going incredibly quickly. Like, we still had so much to cover. And then the ending kind of wrapped up incredibly quickly, and I was like, okay, I would have liked to like linger in some of these conflicts a little bit longer. We were introduced to a lot of side characters that I was interested and invested in, but we get like barely any resolution for them whatsoever. They kind of just come on the page and then they leave really quickly. Especially that part in the middle with like the elopement occurring. We get like, that just like happens. We're like at the end of one chapter and like we're gonna help them with their relationship. And then the next page, they're running off to get married. This other couple, these side characters. I'm like, what happened here? I feel like the author might have like chopped like several chapters that were meant there because it just felt like everything was occurring. Like there was enough in this book to fill an entire season of Downton Abbey. And it just wasn't spaced out as much as I would have liked. I would have liked like 50 to 100 more pages of this book to fully be able to explore everything was talked about. But at the same time, I also picked it up specifically saying that I wanted a shorter book. So I don't know why I'm complaining about wanting it longer. But like, you ever feel that way? Like, if I really like it, then I want it longer. But like, if I wasn't sure I'm gonna like it, then I wanted shorter. So I totally get that like for marketing reasons, they probably cut out a lot. I can't say that it was a perfect 5-star because I did have my little qualms with it. And that's that, and we'll have to survive. I did finish that quite a bit ago. I finished this book last week, and then it was like the end of June content and video editing and stuff like that, so I just didn't feel like picking up another romance book. But I actually know exactly which romance book I want to pick up next. So I kind of waited to film this update until I was in the mood to start reading it. I want to read Free From Falling by E.L. Massey. This is a really niche pick, but I did recently mention the series that this is a part of in my series video. It's a very niche book where I could only find it like years afterwards in the library. So I read the first 3 books in this romance series. It primarily focuses around hockey romances. The first 2 books are about one couple who I adored so much. The 3rd book is about a different couple, still a hockey couple, still in the same universe, which I still really like. But the 4th book came out a while ago, and I've been waiting for it to pop up the library, but it just hasn't yet. And right now, with like all the defunding that libraries in the US are going through, I seriously doubt that they're going to be able to pick up this book anytime in the future. And I said, that's fine, you know what? I'm just going to buy the ebook. There is a book buying website that's partnered with a lot of small independent booksellers, and they recently created an app where you can buy and read ebooks on. So my local bookseller back in my hometown in California is connected to this app. So I was able to buy an ebook from them, supporting that bookshop, but still reading it on my phone because I'm trying to avoid buying Kindle books. I say it with my Kindle in my hand. I read the first chapter already, and it could be the one. I think it really could be the one. I love the way that E.L. Massey writes conversation. It feels so natural and like quippy and back and forth. This particular book, Free From Falling, the 4th book in the series, is still about a hockey player as the main guy love interest. But in the very first chapter of the book that I've already read, he runs into a girl at a party who's like the lead singer in a rock band, and he's like instantly into her. Like he instantly is super attracted to her. But they have this like kind of quippy conversation at the party where she's kind of like, you're looking for a one-night stand, I'm not, and you're a hockey player, you should be sowing your wild oats. I'm not at that point right now. And he's so accepting of that. He's like, yeah, that's so fair, but could we still like be friends? Because like he's so instantly obsessed with her that he's like, can we like still have contact? Can I still text you? I want to be your friend. And she says, sure. And I really like their chemistry already. I'm so excited. Did I mention this? Maybe I didn't mention this. But another part is like when they're first introduced, she is trans, and that's part of like her struggle as a musician and like as an artist is like she has a social media presence as a trans woman that she's well known for. So I imagine that's also going to potentially create conflict if he wants to go into professional hockey. She may not want to be a part of that kind of like fan base. That was a similar kind of conversation we've had in a lot of these hockey romances about the way that queer people, specifically gay people up to this point, but now also trans people, are viewed in hockey circles. And I've always really enjoyed the conversations, the way that E.L. Massey writes them, so I have high hopes for this one. I think this might be the one. Please let this be the one. I want to get this video out in July. Yeah, I have really, really high hopes. I think I'm going to enjoy this, even if it's not a 5-star, and that's always a good feeling. Like going into a book, knowing I'm going to enjoy it, no matter what the rating is, then I can really just like chill out and like it. I'll see you when I've finished reading Free from Falling by E.L. Massey.
Okay, so I can't really film myself reading because I'm reading it on my phone, but I'll try to take you around to other stuff I'm doing in the next couple days as I read. Or maybe I'll just film myself when I'm out reading other books that I'm currently in the middle of reading. We'll see. Okay, sorry, last update, because apparently I knew even less about what this book was about than I thought. But they're also cowboys. Like Sydney's family owns a ranch, like a cow steak farm type thing. Matt's also grew up on a farm where he was from, so they're like bonding over that, and they're like out on Sydney's family's ranch helping herd cows. And I'm like, I thought this was a rock star romance, but I really like it so far. So no, because the way I didn't know what I was going to read next, and then I got this notification. Oh my god. The Libby gods love me. I have been waiting for this book for so long.
Guys, why am I so picky? This video is not supposed to go on this long. I wanted to get it out in a couple weeks from now, and at this pace, it does not seem like my brain is willing to give me a 5-star romance right now. It's partially my fault, okay? Some of the romances I've read for this video on my like previous metrics, like last year's or the year before, probably would have been 5 stars by those metrics. But I feel like the problem is with reading so many books, my criteria for 5-star is getting stricter and stricter every single year, and now we're in the depths. So needless to say, Free from Falling by E.L. Massey was not quite a 5-star, but it was so close. I think it is the closest we have gotten in this video so far. I thought it was going to be a hockey romance because every other book in the series so far has been a hockey romance, primarily around players on this one team in Texas, I think. This last installment is technically a hockey romance, maybe because one of the players is still on that team in that like interrelated universe with the other players. This book was, yes, between a hockey player, but his romantic interest, Sydney, was a rock star in this book, or she is a rock star. She's a singer for a band. So they meet through shared circles, and then they kind of separate ways and they weren't really going to meet up again. But the hockey player, Mats, I guess I didn't give his name, Mats, posts an edit of like his hockey highlights to one of the songs by her band, and she sees it and it makes like a TikTok trend, basically. It's not a very big part of the story. If like TikTok modern references ick you out, it's really not. It's like 2 pages. But it is a catalyst for her to get his number and text him and be like, wow, thank you for making that edit. That's cool of you. I'm glad you like the music. And he goes, yeah, I don't really know a lot of music. And they kind of start this back and forth. And what makes this book so sweet and so cute is that there's not like a ton of miscommunication. It really is like a slow burn friends to lovers. They meet up and they become friends first, because when they meet, Matt is told by Sydney, and Sydney tells him like, hey, I'm trans. You've probably never dated anyone who's trans before. So that they both are like, that's fine. And let's just stay friends then. But then as they stay friends, they slowly fall in love with each other, and it's so, so sweet. And Sydney being trans, I feel like in the story, is both a huge part of her character, but not the main part of her character in a way that I think is just perfectly balanced. I loved it so much. I loved them so much. The slow burn was slow burning. The big romantic gesture in the end, as a person who doesn't normally love big romantic gestures, felt really accurate for what both characters needed. Like, Sydney really wanted to be able to be publicly with someone who wouldn't be ashamed of her. Matt knew that and like devoted himself to making her feel important. Just so cute. Even like if you're just into the concept of this book, maybe pick it up. Especially if, I was gonna say, if you like cowboy romances, I don't know, is that like a genre? Farm romances? Farmer cowboy romances? That oddly is also in here because both of these characters grew up on ranches in different places, but like different ranches, and that's actually a way bigger part of the story. Like they spend, some of their main character developments are when they're on the backs of horses. So if you're not a big hockey romance person, but you like the sound of this book, I could totally feel free to skip just to this romance. But it wasn't quite a 5-star. I'm gonna give this, I gave this book a 4.5 star. They were just like little things, you know, like those little things that like, I'm like, why are there so many genres? Like I went into this for a hockey romance and then we get some rock star romance and then we are all of a sudden on farms. And I felt like that like constant shift back and forth in themes made it a little bit like thematically split, but I didn't really have a firm grasp on the pulse of the story. And I also feel like Matt's admitted to having kind of like a backstory of being more homophobic and potentially transphobic than he is now when he was a high schooler, but it's really underexplored, and I don't really know, I can't really say that I would have wanted the book to explore it further. I kind of wish it just didn't exist because that's like not my favorite trope ever. It's not like he ever met Sydney when he felt like that, like she didn't change him or anything like that. He was already changed and had grown before he met her. Maybe it was just because it's been so long since I read the first books in this series in which Matt's is a side character, so I forgot about his character development. So those were just like my little nitpicks that made me be like, okay, this is a 4.5, this isn't a 5, and that's fine. Because of that, this video is going to continue. We're just going to go through a lot of romance books, and I'm probably going to cut down all of my reviews and summaries of them so that we can really focus on the one that ends up being 5 stars, which I really hope is the next one, because as I showed you in that previous clip, I just got in Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I have been wanting to read this book for a year and a half. First, I put it on hold last summer, and it took about 6 months for the hold to come in. But by the time it came in January, I was like not in the mood to read a fantasy romance, and I didn't want to like not enjoy it. So I was like, no, I'll just return this and I'll get back to it later. At the beginning of this video, I put it on hold along with a lot of other romances, and Half a Soul is the one that came through. So I'm really excited to finally get to read this. Everyone who loves Emily Wilde loves Half a Soul. I love Emily Wilde. As always, I'll give more details once I'm reading. All I really know about the book is that it's in a Regency setting, but with fantastical elements, aka similar to Emily Wilde. What the main part of the story is that the main character, when she was a little girl, lost half of her soul to a fae, and now has a really hard time like being perceived as normal by society because she's missing something of herself. And then she has to team up with potentially a wizard? I don't know. I think it's a wizard who's her love interest. That's all I know. I really hope I enjoy this, and I will let you know at the end whether or not this video continues or not. Guys, it's early, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the butterflies, the giddiness. I'm feeling feelings about this. I'm only on page 34 of 300, so we're only like 15% of the way through, but Dora has met Elias, and I'll give a more plot update in a minute, but I just want to say that this might be the one. I'm really loving their dynamic so far. We're gonna have to see where it goes. Okay, I was out swimming, but I literally just came home, showered, ate some dinner, and now I really want to get back to Half a Soul. We're getting more into like the actual plot of the story, and now I'm remembering that I've heard some people say in their reviews that they didn't necessarily like the magical plot of it so much, so I'm like bracing myself for that to take away some of my enjoyment. But I think there's still a lot that I love. So we're gonna keep going. And fingers crossed. Cross your fingers with me right now, okay? This might be a 5-star. As per usual, I got sunburned today, so I'm all red. Please ignore it. But I thought it would be a good time to give a little update because I'm at the 50% mark of Half a Soul, so about halfway through. We have our 2 love interests, Dora, for short for Theodora, and Elias. Elias is the court sorcerer for, like, the king, or I guess the crown prince or whoever in British society at this era. The only fairy we've gotten in the story so far is the one who tried to steal Dora's soul when she was only 5 years old, but because her cousin protected her, then he only managed to steal half of her soul. Without half of her soul, Dora essentially has a lot of trouble with social cues and feeling strong emotions about pretty much everything. To a modern audience, she's incredibly coded as someone with autism, I would say. I don't know if that's intentional by the author. I guess we'll see by the end, and then I'll probably Google it and check, but so far for me, it reads a lot like when I read a contemporary book with a character diagnosed with autism. It's similar writing choices and descriptions. For example, there's this quote from her on page 51 where Dora says, "I do not feel things the way that others do. There is little difference between my dreams and my reality. I can sometimes exert myself to act more normally, but it is difficult, and I do not think I ever get it quite right." And also the way she talks about herself, even though this is like a magical curse, she doesn't really see herself as broken. She just knows that she's different. But versus like people like Vanessa and her aunt who know what happened to her, know the fairy stole her soul, they're like, oh, we want to fix you. We want to like heal you. Dora hasn't said that same thing, which is why I also feel like maybe like the ending of the story will be like, no, she doesn't actually want to be fixed. We'll see. But I really, really love Dora's character so far. She's really, really deep as a character and like really well written, and she tries so hard to express herself, but in this like Regency era society, being like very straightforward and honest about your feelings is like not accepted, and so she's looked down upon a lot by the other ladies that she's with, and she's not seen as like a marryable prospect. But her cousin is, and her cousin loves her a lot. They've all gone to London to try to find her cousin a husband, but her cousin Vanessa cares more about getting them in touch with the court sorcerer Elias in order to see if Elias can cure Dora. Dora meets the court sorcerer Elias. They have a couple of like exchanges back and forth of like rivalry, very big Pride and Prejudice vibes, low-key. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I feel like they were definitely giving Elizabeth and Darcy in some of those initial like moments. That was what had me so giddy earlier when I was reading them. But once Elias finds out that she's missing half her soul, then he's like, I will try to fix this. I'll try to research it. But before he really can, at this point, they've gotten roped into this other storyline that's occurring in London where there are children who are dying to a sleeping plague. And Dora feels very strongly about this. So she says, no, don't think about curing me. I want to help you instead try to cure this plague and worry about this plague. And I love their dynamic so much. It's so sweet. It's so like real and truthful, partially because Dora is so truthful, but also because Elias just like has no time for like peacocking about. I'm not the biggest fan of the sleeping plague storyline, mostly because it interrupted right at the point where I was like, the romance is getting so good. And now it's like the main priority for both characters. But you know what? I still like it, and I think it still says a lot about the way that these characters care about the world, and the way also what the author cares about the world, and like what kind of viewpoints she wants to put forward for her characters. So I do enjoy that. I just hope the book finds like a balance in the next 50%. But we will continue. I think there's still a chance that this is a 5-star if it does find that balance. Hopefully this is the 5-star we've been waiting for, please.
It's not perfect, but it's so good I might decide not to care. We have only like We still have 20% of the book left. I thought we were at the conclusion. I feel like we've just resolved all the conflicts. What could be left? The romance. Fingers crossed. I feel like we got introduced to the conflict of the story at the 40% mark. It's resolved by the 80% mark. And I'm like, what's the other 60% of the book? It's just the Pride and Prejudice inspired romance.
I finished Half a Soul, and this is a really tough one in which there was some stuff I didn't love in the second half. Like, I would say probably the second half of the book and the ending was like a 4-star for me, whereas the first half was a 5-star. So I'm like, where does that leave me? Was the first half good enough to give the book 5 stars? I need to think on it. So we're gonna come back to Half a Soul soon. But either way, it was a really, really good book. I read it in one afternoon. I absolutely devoured it. And I had a really good time reading it.
It's official. I have decided to give Half a Soul 5 stars, which means this will be the very last update of the video. It kind of took me a second to decide because for Half a Soul, it's kind of similar to Emily Wilde in terms of there's both romance and fantasy elements. But I would say the fantasy elements in Half a Soul are not as good, and I probably wouldn't rate 5 stars. But at the same time, unlike Emily Wilde, Half a Soul is a romance first and foremost, you know, versus Emily Wilde is a fantasy first and foremost. I'm happy to give it 5 stars for the romance elements because even though the fantasy was less developed, it was a romance first and foremost, and I think that part of the story worked so, so well. I loved all the side characters, and I love Dora, the main character. I adore her so much. She is everything to me. Her journey was to accept herself as that, like, I'm not broken. I am a whole person. Just because I'm missing some aspects of, like, what a person would consider, like, a regular human experience doesn't mean that I'm not a whole person as I am right now. Her relationship, for example, with Albert, a side character, who was physically disabled during the war and now has, like, scars and a silver arm that makes him kind of an outcast in Regency society. But she finds so much companionship with Albert and their similarities. And when she looks at Albert and she says, like, he is not broken, he is whole. And you can sort of hear that she's talking about herself also in those reflections. And that just, like, I thought that was so, so well done. And then, like, one of the main messages of the fantasy storyline, which is, like, address the evils in the world that you can address and don't let yourself get downtrodden by all of the evils in the world that you as one person just cannot address. And, like, I really needed to hear that right now, and that, like, was really impactful to me and, like, meant a lot. And for me, it was like, it's because it's a better book than my 4.5 star book in this video, it gets 5 stars, and that's that. So I'm really, really happy that I read Half a Soul. Yeah, if you're like me and you're at a unique intersection of loving Emily Wilde, Pride and Prejudice, maybe even Howl's Moving Castle, but there's less of that, then if you like the Howl's Moving Castle book, I think that that has similarities. I think somewhere in there is where I am, and that this book just hits all those points perfectly for me. So I really, really loved it. So that means that I finally found a 5-star romance. I don't know how long this video is going to end up being when editing, but I had a really fun time making it. In terms of, I sometimes feel like, oh, I can't read a romance right now. I have so many other books to read, like, that I should be reading. But in reading romances, I felt, like, unburdened and, like, I've had more energy to put into the other books that I've been reading, so I really enjoyed this process. Let me know in the comments below if you'd be interested in another video like this one of me searching for a 5-star romance.
Small break in the final update, because I would like to say that this is me from a week after filming the final update for this video, and I just read Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and, well, this is my reaction. So I sobbed for, like, the last 20 minutes of reading the book. I loved it so, so much. It's a much harder, like a definite 5-star versus Half a Soul was, like, a 5-star. So I probably should have waited to finish the video until, like, because Book Lovers was next up on my list after Half a Soul, but I did just want to finish the video. I still loved Half a Soul. Don't get me wrong, I will be rereading that.
but Book Lovers was so me, and the sister dynamic was even better than the one in Half and Soul, and so I did want to shout out Book Lovers for being really, really good. But now back to my final update.
Let me do my usual vlog ranking of books. I think this one's gonna be a little bit easier because I've had a lot of time to think about it. At the bottom of the ranking, it's gotta be Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I've discussed there, I wasn't a huge fan of the way that the representation in that book was done, especially now that I've read other books with, I think, better representation. I would then put First Time Caller, and that's a significant bump in quality. I really did like First Time Caller. I just think that it was a tiny bit underdeveloped for being 400 pages. Like, Half a Soul is also kind of underdeveloped, but it's a much shorter book, you know? Like, I feel like B.K. Borison could have done a lot more in the time that she had with First Time Caller. I think next has got to be A Gentleman's Gentleman, which I really, really liked, but the second half, the pacing was just very rapid, and it didn't get me invested enough in the first half where I was willing to ignore the changes in pacing. Then I would say Afterlove, which I just adored so, so much for the character moments, but the romance was not especially, like, important to me, and this is a romance vlog, so that matters. And then I'd probably rank second best was Free From Falling by E.L. Massey. I really, really loved Free From Falling. I thought it was so sweet. I loved the romance. I was really, really rooting for it. Just, I would say story and plot-wise, there's a lot going on in that book, like a lot of different, like, tropes and settings and vibes that kind of had me going, okay. And there were some other things too that we talked about that just kept it from being a 5-star. And then of course, I think the best romance I read was Half a Soul. And as you can tell, in that 4-star range, I think any one of them could have been a 5-star on a different day or a different person. I think they're all great books. Even the lower rated books, I would say even Act Your Age, Eve Brown, I know so many people who maybe love that romance. Like maybe those are the kind of characters that they want to read about, and that's the kind of romance that would have them giddy. I totally could imagine that. It just wasn't for me. The way that Half a Soul made me feel so giddy and so like washed away and feeling like I was suddenly tossed into the 2007 Pride and Prejudice adaptation. I felt so many feelings with Half a Soul. So thank you so, so much for watching, for sticking with me through this long, long journey. I hope you got some romance recs out of it. I would love to know what romance books you've read recently, or maybe just in general, what is your favorite romance book? Do you think I would like it? I know romance picks can be very personal, so it doesn't have to be one that I like, but if it's one that you like, I'm still interested in hearing about it. And with that, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do as per usual, and I will see you in the next video pretty soon. Bye!